Hello and welcome to the Maurer Glass Podcast. I'm your host, Jill Maurer, and I am here with Artemis. Say hello, Artemis.
Hi, people.
We just finished filming a block of YouTube videos. I think a lot of people think that we film the videos every week or every other week. Now we seem to be doing about 2 videos a week, but we actually film them in blocks.
Mm-hmm. We have to be a little tricky. You change your outfit to make it look like a different day, just to keep it fresh and different. But
right.
Yeah.
Sometimes I even adjust my makeup a little bit. But if you really, really want to know if it's the same day, nail polish color is a good indicator. At least, you usually have the same.
You're giving away the secrets. The illusion has been shattered now.
Right. I usually have the same nail polish color for 2 weeks. So that's the best indicator. And I don't repeat often, but I do repeat.
I like the video we just did, your reaction video to music videos.
That was a fun trip down memory lane for me, actually. I kind of wish I could spend a day just on the couch watching 1980s MTV before it had commercials.
Yeah, the general concept is that Jill always talks about, a big thing with her is about everyone having freedom to wear whatever they want to wear. So for this video, she went to some favorite 80s music videos and showed that we allow musicians to do basically that, but for some reason we don't allow ourselves to do it. So it was fun.
Yeah, and the reason really was I got a couple of comments and some private messages and emails because I've done videos on, Jesus wore a dress, meaning, men can wear dresses, men can wear heels, all of these things. And I'll use ancient examples to show that it's been going on for a long time. And they'll say, just because they did it in Roman times doesn't mean we can do it today. And, really, these people have been watching this all along. They just haven't really noticed. And the 80s music videos, any kind of rock star has always, any musician truly has always had the freedom to wear whatever they want to wear, male or female. And they take that freedom and we give them that freedom. And it's unclear to me why it's exclusive just to them. It's interesting, just what we do to certain people, because I can remember an actor, for example, like a musician really can wear whatever they want. I remember an actor, I used to watch this show back in the day. I can't remember what it was called. It'll come to me. A lot of you will know what it was, but it was about a lot of attorneys. And I liked the show, and there was a woman who was on it, and they wanted her character to kiss a woman, to for it to come out that she was a lesbian, and she refused to play a lesbian. And I thought, what? I've never heard of an actor refusing, for example, to play a murderer. It's just a kind
part of the challenge, yeah.
Right. But, because actors we've always known are playing a part. So they get to wear whatever they want, but they're being a different person. And a musician is truly being themselves, but they have a lot of freedom. And so
what's interesting, though, is if you really look at it, even actors don't always get the same freedoms the musicians get.
Not
For
when they're
example,
being
if
themselves.
you have a Academy Award-winning actor who decides to drop an album, their music venture is always treated as this sort of distant social island that, that's cool that you do that over there.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really taken as, I don't want to say seriously, because some music's not meant to be taken seriously, but it's not as official. It's like, oh, look, they even made an album. Like, they barely scraped together enough talent to do that. Whereas if you flip that, a famous musician decides to try their hand at acting, it's usually accepted. Like, oh, of course they would act. They are the embodiment of art. They can do anything. So
the 2 people that come to mind for that are Cher and Madonna. They both did that. They both started absolutely as musicians and then made very successful movies. Cher made Mask.
Lady Gaga, her performances in American Horror Story have been pretty much positively praised. She did a great job in her roles. And then there's even Christopher Nolan's movie, his latest movie, Dunkirk, has Harry Styles from the band One Direction. He's solo now. But he did a great job in it. But a lot of people going into it, it wasn't even a question of is he going to do a good job. It's, oh, did you know he's even going to try his hand at that? It's strange how much freedom they give it. Which is good. Everyone should be given that. It's just interesting. That,
you know who else just came to mind was Marky Mark. What is his real name?
Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah.
People almost forget that he was a musician.
Right.
He's just allowed to transition.
Right.
And that might be, and it doesn't just go with that. It also goes with the design of their existence. They're allowed to, you can have a musician who, instead of going by his name, goes by a band, but the band is just him, and that's okay. He's allowed to do that. Several musicians can get together and form a band that's counter to another band, like we're the anti this band, and it's okay.
Yeah.
They're allowed to do pretty much anything, and that's probably why we like them.
I can give you an example of the opposite, because for every rule, there's the exception. And I remember 50 Cent. Did I say that right?
Yeah, 50 Cent.
Fiddy, we have to purposely mispronounce that. He was being interviewed by Oprah Winfrey, and she was telling him that, basically she had respect for him, but didn't really, she had trouble with his lyrics and didn't really respect some of the things that he said. And, and I share that sentiment. I think that a lot of it is negative. And he said something interesting. He said, you would allow an actor the freedom. Why an actor can play a gangbanger, or they can play a murderer, or they can do whatever. Why can't I be what I want to be on stage? And she said, that's interesting. I didn't think about that. He said, 50 Cent is a character. He is not me, whatever his name is. Sean, is he Sean Combs?
No, that is P. Diddy, a.k.a. Diddy, a.k.a. Brother Love.
What is his real name?
His name is Curtis Jackson.
Curtis Jackson. Okay. See, I'm just that cool. So I knew he had a real name.
I will be adding "Get Rich or Die Trying" to your iPod this afternoon. Right. That's what I'm going to be doing.
I knew that his mother did not name him 50 Cent.
But that goes along with it too. Is that he also is someone who transitioned. He made a movie called "Get Rich or Die Trying," which was inspired by his life, but the plot is 6 degrees separated enough to where it's actually a fictional character. And he did a great job in that movie. And now he's executive producing another show, and it's just like a part of him. It's okay, and it should be. But if you were to flip that, and suddenly you have an actor or an executive producer drop a rap album, your head would tilt for a second. Like, what are you doing?
Right. Well, it all started when somebody emailed me and said, please help me be the rock star of my own life. And I thought, wow, I want to do that too. Like, let's figure out how everybody can do that. That sounds really cool.
Yeah. So why do you think that is? Why do you think that we give musicians freedom that we don't give ourselves?
I don't know. There's something about the fantasy of the musician and the musician being on stage in that moment. And I also think that music is very much a universal language, that we all connect with each other with music, and we allow ourselves a certain there's a certain freedom that we allow with that.
Sort of like it's a higher plane of social communication.
I would say it's a higher vibration, literally. It's a higher vibration. And I don't know, I do want to explore it more, because I think that there really is something there, that if we could all, if everything, if we could
because right now the separation is what makes you a musician. You make music and people listen is my definition. Some might raise that bar to you make music and people pay to see you. And then someone might raise it to you are known across the planet as a musician. But I think generally speaking, you're a musician if you can make music, right? So that somehow, if that is your job to be a musician, that's the line.
Well, see, we can argue there too, because of course I came of age in the 80s, where the big battle just before that had been between rock and roll and disco, right? And the rock and roll people would say disco is not music. I mean, look at them; they're on drugs. That's just there's like this heinous just beat, and there's no soul to it. And then, and then later there were these manufactured musicians, these boy bands just put together, and people singing music that they didn't have any real connection with. And is that a musician? I don't know. I'd argue somebody can have a talent to sing and be doing something that has no soul. I don't know if that's a
Yeah,
musician.
it depends, and they have this argument a lot in film studies. What makes you a filmmaker? What makes you a director? I would argue that you are a filmmaker. You have put together not even moving images, but you've put together a situation of digital media, which for you is YouTube and your podcasting, that is telling a story. Now, whether that story is a loose interpretation of real life, if it is a completely fabricated real life, or it's a fictional story, I would consider you a filmmaker. So it's the same thing, I think, with musicianship.
Right, where you have somebody like the Beatles or different people who or the Who or any of those guys, Aerosmith, who got together, wrote music, played it, and then tried to become famous, versus some machine going, okay, we have got, what we need is a girl band or a boy band, and here are the songs we want them to sing, now let's cast them.
Because there's also something to that too. I think of Lady Gaga. Someone was telling me about how she studied the concept of fame and, like pop music and fame, and like she built that into the design of her music. So even though on paper it's a situation where she made music for the intention of getting famous, it was more like she used fame as sort of the driving engine behind this creative piece that she made. And that album it's incredible. But so it is a weird blurry line. But again, we allow the musician to sort of explore that and figure it out. Whereas, some people feel guilty about buying a colored shirt that I've never worn fuchsia before, et cetera. So it's strange. It's almost like we think musicians are in touch with some side of them that normal people don't have. You shouldn't even try, almost. Like, don't even try. You don't operate up here.
Right, that almost like, I don't want to say gods, but that they are on some higher plane and have some freedom that we allow them, but not
Which
ourselves.
they might be, but they might be because they've realized that there is no separation. That as being a human, you are inherently creative, and that you are inherently given by nature to do as you please and to ignore what other people say. So they may be right, but we may all be on that plane. It's just some people haven't realized it yet.
Well, and one argument for that, I when we think about like just defining God, we think about creator, creation, creating. And so if we are creating, we are being even being spiritual in a sense. And so like that to me, it's funny that some of the most conservative people say, no, you can't, you can't have your hair long if you're a guy, you can't do this. And yet, if you really look at it, just that very act of creating is emulating godliness. So it's puzzling. So even the most conservative, I think, eventually allow.
And even if you look at
freedom.
the musicians who are, they are inherently religious. They are also. They've allowed themselves that freedom in their eyes through the eyes of God. Like he has said, go forth and express yourself, and in their mind it's them passing on his message. But even in that situation, you can be conservative and still completely express yourself in a way that most people can't.
I want to ask you something. Have you noticed that Siri lost an octave?
I did not.
I said, hey Siri, call Angela. And she said, calling Angela last name. Mobile. It was really weird. I just was like, whoa, honey, have you been smoking? I don't I don't know when she suddenly
I noticed her voice change. I switched back to the iPhone last year after having a Samsung for about 4 years, and I did notice that Siri's voice has changed.
For me, it's been over the past just 2 days.
Okay.
So I don't know. She went from this mechanical thing to this kind of sultry
I don't think
diva.
artificial intelligence can hit puberty, so I don't know what's going on with your phone.
I'm not sure either. Do you have any green books?
Green books?
Yeah, especially old green books.
No, I did gift one of my older friends when he graduated from college, I got him a old copy and one of the older versions of a Charles Dickens book, and it was green.
All right. Well, I think we need to do a public service announcement. It turns out that old green books have been found to have very high levels of arsenic. It was arsenic that they used to make them green.
Okay, that was the worst gift ever. Okay. Excuse me, I'm going to text my friend and say, I may have inadvertently killed you. Congratulations.
Right. Sorry about that.
Okay, awesome.
I think they have to be really pretty old. It turns out it was in Denmark, and I think these books were from like the 1600s or something, and for some reason they were scanning them. For some other reason, they were looking for maybe print they couldn't see, and they realized I mean, it wasn't a subtle amount of arsenic. It was loaded with arsenic. And so they went around the library and did this, and they ended up bagging all of the green books.
Oh my goodness.
And so I don't know how long they were using arsenic to turn books green, but if you are a collector of green books, you may want to assess
The book I got
this.
him it's a 1917 print of it. So it sounds like I'm good. He's still alive. It was years ago. So at this point, it's too late to change.
Or maybe he just didn't like it and has never touched that book.
Oh, either way, this is sad.
So let me ask you, Artemis, if you were having Prince Charles and Camilla over for dinner, what would you serve them? Because I will tell you that Camilla did divulge what Prince George really, really likes and what you should never serve any royal.
I'm going to guess anything they have to eat with their hands.
That's
It's like
a good
Family
guess.
Feud. It's like Family
yeah,
Feud.
that's a good
That's
guess.
got to be at least number 3 answer.
That is not what she said. She said garlic.
Garlic. Okay.
Yeah, because they have to chat and talk and whatever. I'm going to tell you, I'm a quarter Italian. We chat and talk too, but the garlic
Yeah,
is...
and I'm 1/8 vampire, so I'm really not a fan
I
of this.
agree. And that is what I always told people that we had garlic because we didn't want any vampires. We've never seen one. That's what it is. I thought, everybody talks about the royals actually being lizard people. They're probably just vampires.
Oh, no, they're definitely
That doesn't
vampires.
sound so bad.
Don't serve him a steak. A steak? No, literal a steak. He doesn't want to be anywhere near one.
Right.
The crown, not made of silver. It's made of gold.
Well, things can be made of... Wait, the silver bullet, is that the vampire? No, that's the werewolf.
I'm going to look it up.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to look it up. All right, so what are you going to say? Do you think silver kills vampires or werewolves?
It's not just silver. It has to be a silver bullet.
It has to be a silver bullet? I thought that was
Yeah.
just a convenient way to get a bullet into someone.
How would silver kill them? You think just like being exposed? See, being exposed to a cross pushes a vampire back. Eating garlic or having garlic around your neck, whatever, that will also keep them away.
All right, I have the answer. So what did you say? Werewolves or vampires affected by silver?
Werewolf. I think it'll kill a werewolf.
Okay, the official myth-busting article here says that the vampires aren't hurt by silver. Only werewolves are.
See? But
Oh, hold
for
on.
me,
But
you could have been...
It does clarify, though. To be clear, pure, undiluted silver, or nearly so, will hurt vampires. So if it is absolutely pure, it can harm vampires, apparently.
Okay, so for all you vampires out there, my silver is $9.25. It is alloyed. You're okay. You can get a Stampede necklace just fine.
Silver bullet can paralyze a vampire. So
All right,
yeah,
maybe-
I feel like the bullet, the design of that whole situation is, the bullet's just the easiest way to get it in them. I mean, if you just walk up to a vampire and say, "Hey, look over there," and then you stab him with silver, I feel like he's gonna catch on to you. Can't
Or
really
if you
dodge
say,
a bullet.
try on this necklace.
Yep. Yeah. So if you were planning on spending any AdWords money on advertising your silver bracelets to vampires, I would not do that.
Okay, so we have QED. We have proven that royals are vampires, not werewolves.
Next subject. So now that we've cleared that up,
Okay.
we're breaking ground here on the podcast.
Right.
So here's a natural segue. Language.
Right. We were talking today I was talking about how many more words my grandfather used than I did. He was constantly, when he would just speak in normal life, I would have to go look up the words. And I really think that it wasn't just because I was young. I think that his age group really used a lot more vocabulary than I used growing up. And when you read about how people spoke in the 1700s and the 1600s, they had much, much, much more in the way of vocabulary. And I have noticed now that younger people around me don't know words that I would use regularly. Like, it's sort of the same thing where they say, whoa, I need to look that up. Mm-hmm. That my language is becoming antiquated in some way. And yet, they use all kinds of words that I have to figure out. Like, is it GIF or GIF? And what's I don't know, all this technology stuff that I have to look up. But our language, it's interesting how much I can see it actually changing in my lifetime. I mean, even just a turn of phrase that I'll use, there will be people around who are full-grown adults who I think it's a very common phrase and they've never heard it. I remember the last one I said, I was talking to you and Sarah, and I said, well, I thought it was from soup to nuts, or, I don't remember exactly what I said, but the phrase was soup to nuts.
Soup to nuts. I cannot recall. I've probably heard it, but it's probably buried. I did not actively recall ever hearing that expression before.
And my parents and grandparents would have used that regularly.
And it's funny because now, since you've said that, I've heard it at least 6 times in different TV shows and movies. So it's,
Isn't that funny?
it's weird. I hate when that happens. It's like, if I just missed out an entire section of my language.
Well, but then, when you're my age too, you get to where you go, there are whole trends and people, there are whole trends and people that I don't even know who they are and I didn't notice it. Like recently, I can't tell you how many times I log onto my computer and it says so-and-so is marrying so-and-so, or so-and-so is engaged to, I don't know either of them or what they do or who they are.
Yeah. Okay. So you want to talk about design. So I have a sticky note over here with the topic points in case we run out, and I have the number 30 circled 6 times. I don't know what that means.
30 Rock?
30, Steph Curry's number. He plays for the Golden State Warriors. He's a great three-point shooter, and he changed... Oh, here we go. Okay, here we go. Here's some improv. So Steph Curry is a three-point shooter, and he changed the design of basketball so that having a three-point shot is actually a viable first run of offense. You can actually just shoot, and that's your play, and get the rebound as a secondary play. That makes sense, right?
Fascinating. It's funny because I understand football. My father played football. I have never figured out basketball.
Yeah, it's an interesting sport. It was invented to keep football players in shape.
I didn't realize that. I knew it was invented by a minister, I think, with peach baskets, and it was to keep people in shape in a small space. Like, it could be a small space
Right.
where you could get a lot of
Yeah,
exercise.
just grabbed a couple of peach baskets, punched the bottom out of it, and it became a way to keep football players in shape. And now it's like a multi-million-dollar sport.
It's not something that my parents watched, and it wasn't something that I live in North Carolina. I didn't grow up here. If you grow up here, you understand basketball, but I didn't. I understand, or up until a certain point, I understood the ins and outs of football. I don't watch it anymore.
You played sports though, right? You were a gymnast?
I did. I was a gymnast. I was a diver, and I was a springboard diver, and I was a racquetball player.
Which of those were your favorite?
I like them all for different reasons. I wish, the one I'd like to be doing today is racquetball. It kind of fell out of favor, but talk about a great way to burn a lot of calories in a small space. And also the weather didn't matter. It could be freezing like it was in Alaska, or it could be raining or hot, and it was always air conditioned and good.
I
But
took up tennis this summer, and I've never been. I've always played chess. I've played video games. I have never encountered a scenario that is more frustrating than when someone lobs it over you and it's inbounds, and you just turn around and you just look at them, and you're just like, oh.
tennis is the one sport that when you're playing competitive racquetball, they do not want you to play. Racquetball and tennis, the same person should not be playing both.
Oh.
The stroke is completely different. In racquetball,
Oh, I see. Like they need to pick one, basically.
you pick one. Yeah, in racquetball, like that lob thing, I would just wait for it to hit the back wall,
Oh, right.
and then I return it. It's that doesn't bother me.
Just get out of the way. I'll be here waiting.
And it was one of the things, my father was the Southeastern U.S. champion, and it was one of the things he taught me right away was, because I played a lot of men, and he would say, you're not going to outpower them. Don't play their game. You need to play your game, and it was all about finesse and those trick shots and just having it just really hug the wall. That's the equivalent of the inbound lob. It just glides along the wall and dies in the corner. There's nothing you can do about it.
That's so frustrating. Oh man, yeah, I love getting backspinned close to the net, and I'm all the way in the back, ready for the heat, and then they just put it right over the net, and I just run, and you just see it fall, and you just get so. I've never been more frustrated. It's the worst feeling on the planet.
I can remember in challenge ladders, more than one man looking at my father going, "She's cheating! She's cheating!" She's not cheating. She's playing smart. You better figure out how to play her. You're not going to win.
Interesting, because from over here it looks like you're losing.
Right? To a 16-year-old girl.
Right. So gymnast is gymnast like I'm not 100% sure how it works. Is it like all around like you do the springboard and the balance thing, or did you have like one that you liked the most?
We did everything, and by springboard, I'm assuming you meant the vault. So it was vault.
Thing that makes you jump.
Yeah. Okay. So it was vault, balance beam, parallel bars, and floor. And I did do them all. I did not become an elite gymnast. I was a gymnast when I was younger and got up to about an intermediate level, but I got too tall too fast to be a gymnast. And what happens to most people who get too tall too fast is they become divers.
Oh, I see. All right, so just do all of that, but at the end of it, fall in the water.
Right, exactly. Exactly. Right. So the diving coach would go, too tall, huh? All right, well, this is the approach. I will say that I owe you a bit of an apology.
Oh, what did you do?
Apparently, we got these new snowmen or whatever they are, the microphones, and I just wasn't sure that it would sound better. I didn't know if it would or not. I was impressed at how well we sounded in that
I like
class.
it. It makes all the difference in the world, two people having their own mics.
Yeah.
And it was a bit of a workflow change. I had to figure out how to... I use Logic Pro, which is a music making software, and I've been using it for so long that I decided to use that to record our podcast. But I've edited vocals in there before, so I just had to learn how to do it for podcasting. But yeah, I'm a big fan.
Yeah, so if you're new to us, we don't really sound this good. It's the mics, and if you want to see how bad we really sound, just go back a few weeks.
All microphone.
So one of the things that Artemis has been playing with that has to do with design is his own forearms. Mm-hmm. For a while, he's been considering a tattoo and wasn't sure if he wanted to commit. And so you did basically what it's not quite henna. What was it that you did? You had this temporary tattoo, but it wasn't.
Yeah, it's actually really similar to that technique. It's by the company that I went with was a company called Inkbox, and essentially what you get is this black goop that's a lot like icing you'd have on a cake, and it comes in a bottle with a very fine, almost an icing needle, but you can also buy additional gauges, which I did, and you paint it on your skin like you would ice a cake. You leave it for about 60 minutes. You wash it off. There's nothing there at that point, and then within 24 hours, it develops a lot like a photo, and then it looks, pretty close to a tattoo. If you look at it up close, it's not. You can tell it's not real, but it's from a distance, it looks pretty good. And the idea, some people get it because they just want to switch up tattoos, and some people get it if they're considering one because it lets them try it out without actually doing it. And I've actually been enjoying figuring out how to do this and make it look more accurate than the actual ability of having the tattoo. It's interesting how that works.
And then we found online this kind of printer thing where you can doodle or you can get a file and then you can just sort of, I guess it just sort of prints it on your arm. I guess it's sort of like a stamp.
Yeah, I was looking it up, and it has a couple of benefits over what I'm doing. Is that it's colored, and you can import files, instead of like hand drawing it. Which the company I went with does have pre-made designs, but you're sort of limited to what they've come out with. Otherwise, you have to do it freehand. This one would let you just basically load in any file. It only lasts 2 to 3 days though, whereas I tested mine. It lasts for about 10, 14 days if I really try and if I scrub it really hard, it'll last about 10 days.
I think after seeing what you've been doing, I would love for one of our photo shoots for Maurer Limited, because I just love our Maurer Limited logo. I love that bug. And I think I would like to incorporate tattoos of the Maurer Limited logo on the models. I think it could be pretty cool.
Yeah, that'd be neat. It's a good way to do that without, and they know that it's going to be gone after 10 days.
Right.
So
Right.
It's pretty awesome.
I myself have never had a tattoo. I've never considered a tattoo because what I know about myself is that I'm entirely too fickle. There's nothing that I would like forever, and I know that.
Yeah, I'm sort of the same way. It's weird. After the 6th day of this is about my 4th one that I've drawn. Right now it's sort of an anchor with it's also the front of a ship, and the lines didn't really come out as clear as I wanted, but after about the 3rd day, you forget it's there. So I'm starting to understand why people who get the first tattoo, they keep getting more. It becomes invisible, and you get desensitized to it, so you get another one to get that feeling. So I definitely get it now. But I'm the same way. I'm basically a musician trapped in a filmmaker's body. So part of me is like, I would love to have tattoos. And then some of me is like, yeah, but in 10 years, am I really going to like that? So this has been a fun way to see if I'd like it.
I actually like that idea a lot. Like, I have nothing against tattoos on other people. I just wouldn't do it. But that I would try, maybe.
Because you could have fun with it. Like, imagine if you're a musician and you have a festival coming up, and you're sort of known for shape shifting kind of in terms of your musical sound and everything like that. So what you do is you get a real, because this is just me with tracing paper, you know, imagine if you had a real tattoo artist who understood how this works, and so they drew up this customized design that was like inspired by the name of the festival or the theme of the festival. If it's a jungle theme, you have all these jungle things, and then part of because all these musicians, what they do is they go to these festivals, they play, and the photography of them playing the festival becomes a big part of their branding for their Instagram page, etc. So as part of that, if they have this ever-changing ink on them, I think that would be a really cool.
And it doesn't even need to be a tattoo artist, because there are things a tattoo artist needs to understand with the needles and all of that you don't need. So it opens up the world to just about any artist.
I would honestly let a baker do this.
Right. Right.
It's like, can you do roses? Yeah, I can do roses.
Right, because it's non-committal.
You really do feel like a cake because you can't move it. You're just sitting there with like a 1/4 inch of ink on your arms, and your friend's looking at you like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm waiting.
I kind of love that trend, and it's adding a new dimension to my Halloween plans.
Mm-hmm. Oh, interesting. Yeah, the box is funny though. The box has very detailed instructions, and you know, one of my favorite jokes by the great Brian Regan says that anytime you see a sign that says don't do something, it means someone did that.
Right.
So one of the things is like, don't do this on your face, like no matter what. And so I was trying to think like, all right, some kid did something stupid on his face, and you know, just to make it clear, like don't put a lobster on your face or the name of your ex-girlfriend, like either way.
Yeah, you know, are you familiar with TV dinners? Do they still have those?
Oh, they do.
They, you know how it says, take the TV dinner out of this cardboard box? Mm-hmm. That was my aunt. She cooked them in the box and burned her house down. So she's the reason that's there. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Maurer Glass Podcast. If you like what you heard, please give us lots of stars wherever it is you give us lots of stars. What am I supposed to say?
Close enough. What she's asking you to do is rate the podcast on iTunes and share it with your friends.
I still don't really understand podcasting entirely. I do listen to a lot of podcasts, and I love podcasts, but I don't have sort of all of that vocabulary yet around the podcast.
It's mostly useless.
Thanks for being with us, and we'll see you next time on Maurer Glass Podcast.